3 years after marrying Porter, I endured a day and night of difficult labor to give birth to our daughter. But when he took the baby from the nurse's hands, he named her Iris, and my body stiffened on the delivery bed. I know that Porter's unforgettable ex-girlfriend Mila had a former name during her school days, Iris. I received a video. In it, a drunken Porter complains to his ex-girlfriend about my changed figure and the unpleasant smell of milk stains. He says the person belongs to me, but his heart will always be hers. Looking at our daughter's sleeping face wrapped in swaddling clothes, Porter didn't know that this time, whether it was his body or his heart, I wanted neither. This is the 15th day since I gave birth to my daughter. Porter has never come back. Because on the delivery bed, I desperately stopped Porter from naming my child Iris. Porter looked at me with disappointment and said, "It's just a name," questioning why I had to be so particular about it, but I was unwilling to accept it. Why? What right did Porter have to turn the name of the precious daughter I risked my life to give birth to into a tool for expressing his longing for his first love? I am alone at home, holding my swaddled daughter. Just because Mila said that taking care of a baby is simple, and her friend manages it all alone with ease. So Porter naturally refuses to hire a baby nurse for me. Stella, Mommy Stella. I softly call the name I gave my daughter, trying to breastfeed her, only to find that because of all this, I've long since been too upset to produce any milk. Baby Stella cried loudly from hunger. At this moment, I could no longer hold back and broke down into near hysterical sobs. Porter and I met while volunteering at an orphanage. Back then, the moment Porter saw me, he started pursuing me, but no matter how good he was to me, I never felt a spark. Until that one time, when I ran into some thugs at work, and Porter risked his life to protect me. Only then did the closed door to my heart slowly open. I am an orphan. Porter's presence made me feel what it was like to love and be loved. He said he loved my kindness the most. But after we married, I realized that Porter had only pursued me because my eyes resembled Mila's by 80%. How ridiculous, it turns out both my daughter and I have become tools for Porter to reminisce about Mila. Porter and Mila were college sweethearts. Later, just before they were about to get married, Mila dumped him to pursue opportunities abroad. Unexpectedly, Porter didn't hate her. Instead, from then on, he regarded Mila as his unforgettable first love. Footsteps came from the doorway, and the door opened. Porter was back. I was about to ask Porter for help when my arm, sore and aching from holding Stella day and night for over 10 days, gave out. My eyes were red, I was really about to break down. Porter, Stella Porter frowned. What Stella? I've told you, her name is Iris. I really don't get why you're so petty about this, it's just a name. And look at the mess in the house, and Iris is crying. Don't you know how to take care of her properly? My eyes welled up as I tried to argue with Porter. But I haven't had a nutritious meal in a long time, and my whole body feels weak. I have no milk. Could you help me stew some fish soup? I pleaded weakly. Porter's parents despised me for being an orphan and for only giving birth to a daughter, so they never cared about me and never even came to see my daughter once. I thought that by saying this, Porter would feel sorry for our daughter and remember his responsibility as a father to stay and take care of the child. Porter frowned impatiently. Isn't having no milk your own fault? And it's just fish soup, can't you stew it yourself? After saying that, Porter didn't even wait for me to respond and turned to leave. Porter. I called his name loudly from behind, but the only response was the heavy sound of the door slamming shut. Porter was gone. I held my swaddled daughter tightly, suddenly recalling how, in the early days of our love, Porter had promised me that for the rest of his life, he would do everything to keep me from shedding a single tear. I fear loneliness the most. When Porter proposed, he once told me that he would give me a home, so I would never be alone again. The sound of my daughter crying in my ear made me restless. At this moment, I suddenly felt a bit lost and recalled a bitterly ironic question: what does marriage really bring to a woman? Is this truly the home I've wanted since I was a child? I had no choice but to order takeout, buying formula and fish soup. When the delivery arrived, I dragged my aching body to get it, but as I returned to the room to prepare the formula for my daughter, I saw a post from Mila on social media. In the photo, Porter wore an apron, and the look in his eyes toward Mila was a tenderness he had never shown me. Suddenly, I felt both pitiful and ridiculous. Stella's cries from hunger, and my pleas for help, Porter ignored completely. He disregarded the fact that I had barely survived the ICU, refusing even to cook a bowl of fish soup for me, yet he was willing to go into the kitchen for the healthy Mila. That's true. After all, from beginning to end, I was nothing more than a substitute wife to Porter. He didn't love me. Naturally, he wouldn't love our daughter. I prepared the formula for my swaddled daughter, then forced myself to drink the fish soup while holding back tears, but they still fell drop by drop into the soup. Yet I pushed myself to finish it. I knew I couldn't break down. Porter, this father, didn't love Stella, but I did. After finally getting Stella to sleep, my phone received a video sent from an anonymous number. After opening the video, I saw Porter drunkenly holding Mila, complaining about me. Raina is really useless, she can't take care of things at home or outside, making Iris only know how to cry. Her figure has gone out of shape, and she doesn't even know how to manage it. What's worse, there's that awful smell of milk stains whenever you get close to her. I really regret choosing her. She doesn't even think, if I hadn't taken pity on her as an orphan back then, how could I have married her? She doesn't know how to be grateful, and on top of that, she's so unreasonable. Hearing Porter say this, it felt as if all the blood in my body was flowing backward. Porter actually despised me for being an orphan. But from the moment we met, I never hid the fact that I was an orphan. Yes, I am an orphan. But all my life, I never gave up on myself or fell into despair. After becoming an adult, thanks to my excellent grades and outstanding work ability, I rose to become a senior executive in a company. I can live well without him, Porter, I don't need his pity at all. I looked down at my flabby belly. Porter wasn't wrong. My figure has changed, but I just gave birth to my daughter and haven't even finished my postpartum confinement. What does he expect me to do, lose weight at the cost of my life? I don't understand how things turned out this way. It was Porter who, after finding out I was pregnant, forced me to quit my executive job, saying it would be good for me and the baby for life. In the video, Porter held Mila even tighter. He said his heart would always belong to her, and that his presence with me was out of a sense of responsibility. I watched the video almost to the point of breaking down, but I covered my mouth, not daring to let myself cry out loud and wake the child. Raina, I advise you to know when to back off. After all, if you didn't look like me, Porter wouldn't even glance at you. I knew this was Mila provoking me. The next day, Porter finally came back, but he brought Mila along. As soon as Mila stepped into the room, she gave me a disdainful look, but in front of Porter, she still pretended to be affectionate toward me. Iris, come let Auntie hold you, Mila called Stella's name while looking at Porter with tender eyes. I held my daughter tightly and looked at her coldly. Mila, feigning grievance, reddened her eyes. Porter, it seems Raina doesn't like me. Maybe I should just leave now. Porter, of course, couldn't stand seeing his white moonlight wronged. He looked at me reproachfully. Raina, how can you be so unreasonable? Don't you know how many gifts Araby specially picked out today just to see you? It's one thing if you don't appreciate it, but to make such a fuss is just absurd. I looked at Porter sadly. Why should I thank her? Thank her for abandoning you to go abroad back then, and then thank her for shamelessly destroying our marriage after she found out you got married and had children? Sister Raina, don't think like that. I've made things clear with Porter. Mentioning the past, Mila ran out crying. Porter wanted to follow, but I stopped him with a sharp voice. Porter, I just want to ask you one thing. When you decided to marry me, was it because I looked like Mila, or because you loved me, even if just a little? If you love me, then don't leave. Stay here with me and our daughter, okay? Our daughter is still so young, she needs you. Tears welled up in my eyes as I put down my pride and begged him. Humbly pleading for even a little love from Porter. Of course I love. Porter's eyes hesitated. He had intended to stay, but upon seeing the potentially suicidal message Mila sent, his expression immediately changed. His eyes were full of disgust toward me. "Reina, this is all you're doing. If anything happens to Mila, I will never forgive you." Porter then turned and left. The whole house was left with only Stella and me. In the middle of the night, half asleep, I suddenly smelled a strong, choking smoke. Stella started crying too. Only then did I realize something was wrong. I picked up my daughter and tried to open the front door, but found the doorknob scorching hot. I recalled some fire safety knowledge I had learned on social media and immediately realized the fire had spread outside the door. After calling 911, I instinctively tried calling Porter for help. But after several calls, Porter didn't answer. Stella had already started crying from inhaling the smoke. I held her tightly, my heart aching. "Why won't you answer the phone? Porter, I beg you, please pick up. Save me and Stella." The fire had damaged the circuits, and just as my phone was about to die, Porter finally answered. I was about to speak, but Porter shouted at me angrily first. "Reina, are you out of your mind? Don't you know Reina has a fever? I finally got her to sleep, and you keep calling." "No, Porter, there's a fire at home. Please come back quickly. I'm so scared, and Stella keeps crying." My body trembled instinctively. But on the other end, Porter's words were full of sarcasm. "Reina, do you think these tricks are funny? Also, my daughter has always been called Iris. The one named Stella is definitely not my daughter." At this moment, I had long lost the will to argue with Porter. "There's really a big fire, Porter. My daughter and I are trapped inside the house and can't get out. Please, come back quickly and save me and the child, will you? I'm begging you, save our daughter." Seeing thick smoke slowly seeping through the door, my tone grew increasingly desperate. But just then, I heard Mila's weak voice calling out to Porter over the phone. Shortly after, Porter hung up, and I couldn't reach him again. I held Stella close and hid in the bathroom, frantically stuffing towels into the door cracks, but the thick smoke still seeped in bit by bit. Even though I covered Stella's mouth and nose with a wet towel, she was still a baby. I watched her cries grow fainter and fainter, and my heart sank deeper into despair. Just when I thought Stella and I would die there, suddenly the bathroom door was pushed open from the outside. The firefighters arrived just in time and rescued both me and Stella. The next day, Porter received the news and rushed to the hospital. When he saw me in the intensive care unit, his eyes immediately lit up with joy as he hugged me tightly. "Reina, I'm so glad you're okay. What about Iris? How is she?" Slap. Just as Porter finished speaking, I slapped him across the face. "Reina, why did you hit me?" Porter turned his face away, disbelief in his eyes. But I felt utterly exhausted. I was so tired. I no longer wanted to love Porter. Being trapped in the house during the fire made me realize that Porter's heart had always belonged to Mila. I couldn't pull him back, nor did I want to. This time, I wanted neither Porter's presence nor his heart. "Porter, let's get a divorce." I closed my eyes, unwilling to look at him any longer. I originally thought that when Porter heard me mention divorce, he would be eager to agree. After all, in the video, his disdain for me was obvious, and the only reason he was willing to maintain the marriage was out of a sense of responsibility. "Reina, you want to divorce me?" Porter wanted to lose his temper but held back. "Why, Reina? I know you're angry because of the fire, but now there's nothing wrong between you and the child, and you and Iris are fine too. Besides, I'm begging you to be reasonable. The fire was caused by our next-door neighbor's improper use of electrical appliances, which led to our house catching fire." Porter looked at me with a face full of grievance. "Reina, sometimes you really need to be mature. You can't just blame people out of spite." I finally couldn't keep my eyes closed any longer, then slapped him again, pushing him against the hospital room door. "Porter, open your damn eyes and look, lying inside is a child whose life hangs in the balance, your daughter. She's so young and has suffered so much. But what were you doing, Porter, when my daughter and I were in danger? I'm asking you. Tears welled up in my eyes as I suddenly remembered how, during my pregnancy, Porter often gently placed his ear on my belly. He said this was his first child, and once the baby was born, he would be the most devoted father. But now, our daughter, still in the ICU, had become the cruelest irony of his promises. I'm sorry, Raina, but Mila had a fever then and needed constant care. I never expected the house to catch fire. If I had known you were telling the truth, I would have come back without a second thought. Porter looked toward the hospital room where our daughter lay, a trace of guilt surfacing in his eyes. Before Porter could finish, I cut him off coldly. My gaze grew colder, my disappointment in Porter complete. Her name isn't Iris, and she isn't your daughter. My once hollow, sorrowful eyes slowly hardened with resolve. Porter lifted his eyes. Raina, don't say things in anger. How could Iris not be my child? I know you're upset, but how can you joke about something like this? I sneered. Porter, didn't you say it yourself? Only a child named Iris is your daughter, but my daughter is named Stella, so she's not your daughter, let alone a tool for you and that slut Mila to flirt with. Raina, don't say things that are too harsh. How many times have I told you, there's nothing between Mila and me? Porter still looked at me with that accusing gaze. Looking at Porter like this, I was completely disappointed. I said it, divorce. I don't care what you and Mila do anymore. Fine, Raina, if you're this heartless, don't regret it. Have you forgotten you're an orphan? Who gave you a home after all? Porter glared at me furiously. Having figured everything out, I turned around and looked at Porter coolly. So what if I'm an orphan? What kind of family is that? Is it okay for a so-called husband like you to stay at another woman's place? Porter, do you think I'm a fool? To be honest, I just don't understand. Mila is still alive, isn't she? What are you commemorating with my daughter's name? The look I gave Porter was filled with nothing but disgust. Porter had never treated me like this before. Fine, divorce it is. Raina, don't regret this. With that, he stormed off, never once glancing back at the incubator where Stella lay. The next day. Fortunately, Stella's attending physician told me that my daughter had passed the critical period and could be moved to a regular ward. This filled me with immense relief. As long as my Stella was alive, I felt that hope in life still remained. Noon. I handed Stella over to my close friend to look after for a while, then went to the law firm by myself. I needed a lawyer to help me discuss the divorce. In the 3 years I've been married to Porter, I paid in full for the house we live in. Even the company he runs was built through the connections I found and the networking I endured, pushing through stomach pain and drinking to keep up appearances for him. Now that I've decided to divorce Porter, I intend to reclaim custody of Stella and all the property that belongs to me. The female divorce lawyer handling my case pursed her lips after hearing my story. Ms. Raina, as a woman, I sympathize with what you've been through, but the law isn't about sentiment or morality, it's about evidence, do you understand? You say your husband cheated, but you must have concrete proof. Only then can we ensure you get the best possible outcome in the divorce. I thought for a moment and replied, I understand. Thanks to the videos and photos Mila sent me of the protests, they have now become the best evidence to protect my rights. I had my lawyer contact Porter and told him about the divorce. When Porter received the divorce agreement from the lawyer, he stormed into the hospital room to find me. But upon seeing me and the still ill Stella, he immediately toned down his anger, like a guilty little puppy. This was the usual tactic he used whenever we argued before, but this time he didn't know that I truly no longer loved him. So when I saw his guilty and wronged face again, I no longer felt resentment or hatred. I just wanted to cut all ties with Porter cleanly and quickly. Raina, are you really going to divorce me? I know I was wrong. If I had known the fire was real that day, no matter what happened to Mila, even if she was dying, I would have rushed back to save you. Porter seemed about to say Iris, but then he seemed to remember that I didn't like him calling my daughter Iris, and quickly corrected himself. Raina, you and Stella are the most important things in my heart. Stella is still young, she can't be without her father. I gave him a cold look. What you say makes sense. Porter's face lit up with joy, he thought I was still as easy to appease as before and would forgive him immediately. But I spoke seriously. Porter, we're getting a divorce. When Stella grows up, if she cares about you as her father and wants to come back to you, I won't stand in her way. Moreover, Porter, I'm tired of your sweet talk. Deep down, you've already made your choice between me and Mila, between mother and daughter. And I won't compromise just to give Stella a normal family. I come first, then I'm Stella's mother. And Porter, having a father like you is worse than having none at all. When our lives hung by a thread, it was the brave and honorable firefighters who saved us, while you, as a father, were lost in Mila's tender embrace. You have no right to be my husband, nor to be Stella's father. After all, your daughter can only be called Iris. At that moment, Porter realized I was determined to divorce him, and his eyes welled up with tears. Raina, don't be like this. We've been married for 3 years. For the sake of our past, give me one more chance. I swear, if I ever get involved with Mila again, may I be struck by lightning 5 times over. Porter tried to hold me, but I pushed him away coldly. I don't love you anymore, Porter. I looked at him, my eyes no longer filled with desperate pleas or any trace of affection. Porter, you should have seen the evidence my lawyer sent you. Your company is about to go public, isn't it? Think carefully, if you refuse to divorce now, I'll leak this evidence to the media. Do you really think your investors would support someone with questionable morals, someone who can't even handle their own family affairs? I knew better than anyone how important the company was to Porter. Besides, Porter, without that company, you'll just become the salesman everyone looks down on again. Hearing this, Porter's eyes were full of sorrow. Raina, are you really going to be this heartless to me? I almost laughed when I heard that. Someone like Porter is so hypocritical, always twisting things around. If I weren't afraid of waking my daughter, I would have grabbed the broom in the hospital room and chased him out. Same to you, Porter. You know what I'm capable of. I'm giving you one night to think it over. If you don't sign the divorce papers by then, I'll expose everything to the media and make sure you lose everything again. I looked at Porter, my eyes filled with disgust. Porter seemed hurt by the hatred in my gaze. Raina, you've changed. How can you look at me like that? Hearing this, I couldn't help but lower my head and laugh. Why? Because I was foolish before, but now I see you clearly. Porter, you're a hypocritical, disgusting little man. People like you and Mila are truly made for each other. I wish you both locked in forever. Raina, you've gone too far. Porter left the hospital room with red eyes. I picked up my daughter, who had just woken up and was obediently blowing bubbles, and couldn't help but laugh. But as I laughed, tears involuntarily fell onto Stella's tender face. I held Stella close and gently said to her, Stella, even though you don't have a very good father, Mommy will protect you well. It was 3 a.m. I received a call from Porter. He agreed to the divorce and said he would move out of the house. But I felt nothing. After all, the house was mine to begin with, so why should I be grateful to him? Stella was feeling better, so I carried her back home to start packing. But to my surprise, I saw Porter's mother arriving with Mila. Raina, I heard you're divorcing my son and want to take his money. Raina, how can you be so shameless as an orphan? Just because you had a daughter, you dare to divorce my son and take so much of his money, Porter's mother said with a sour expression. Auntie, please stop. It's just that Raina was lucky to meet Brother Porter, who was kind-hearted. Otherwise, who would give him money? Mila said, pretending to be obedient. I frowned coldly. Auntie, you must be getting old and forgetful. When I married your son, your family couldn't even provide a decent house. This house was bought entirely with my own money. So how is it now that it belongs to your family? And what do you mean by me being greedy for your son's money? Your son cheated and should have left with nothing. What I'm doing now is already generous enough to preserve our final dignity. Porter's face turned awkward, seemingly at a loss for words after my retort, but suddenly her gaze landed on Stella, and in an instant, she looked like a victorious general. Raina, you can get a divorce, but this child belongs to our family. She has to come with us. Porter's mother reached out to grab the child, but my friend Wendy stopped her. Compared to me, my sister Wendy had a much fiercer temper. Pfft, Porter's mom, you really are cunning with age. You want to claim every good thing as your Porter's. How dare you? Have you forgotten that if it weren't for my Raina marrying your useless son and helping him run the company and pull in resources, you wouldn't be living this pampered life now? Aren't you a woman? To despise women so much, why don't you change your gender? I think someone like you, who favors sons over daughters, is destined to have no grandchildren. Wendy was furious with Porter's mother. She pulled Mila aside and said, "Who says I don't have a grandson? I'm telling you, Mila is already pregnant. I went to see a master who told me this baby is definitely a grandson." Hearing that Mila was carrying Porter's child only deepened the irony in my heart, and it made me even more certain that divorcing Porter was absolutely the right decision. Mila cast me a shy glance, proudly rubbing her belly. "Sorry, Sister Raina, I couldn't help myself that night with Porter either. But just because you can't bear Porter a son doesn't mean others can't, and besides, I truly love Porter." I was momentarily stunned. "When did you get pregnant?" Mila tenderly stroked her belly. "I can't really remember, but it should have been the night your house caught fire." "Hey, you shameless thing." Wendy rolled up her sleeves, ready to hit Mila, but I stopped her. "Enough, Wendy. The dog bit you once, do we really have to bite them back?" I packed up my things, preparing to leave. At that moment, Porter hurried over. "Porter." As soon as Mila saw him, she immediately lunged forward, only to be pushed away by Porter. Porter's gaze never left me from start to finish. When he saw my suitcase, his eyes flickered with panic. "Raina, where are you going?" But I ignored him. Mila wasn't willing to be neglected by Porter. She grabbed his hand and placed it on her belly. "Porter, come feel your baby." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Porter instinctively wanted to deny it, but his mother saw through him, firmly convinced that Mila was now carrying her grandchild. "Porter, what nonsense are you talking about? Mila is carrying your child right now. She's not like that shameless Raina, who only knows how to steal your money." "Mom, please stop," Porter pleaded, looking at me in panic, as if afraid of losing something. "Raina, I was just drunk back then, and I don't even know what happened afterward, you have to." But I didn't wait for Porter to finish. I handed the child to Wendy, then stepped forward and slapped him twice across the face. "Hey, you shameless woman, how dare you hit my son?" Porter's mother shouted, furious and flustered. I looked at her, recalling a time when she was seriously ill and Porter was too busy with work to help. It was me, the shameless woman she always complained about, who took care of her tirelessly. Now that I think about it, that mother and son are cut from the same cloth, ungrateful wolves. "Raina." Porter looked at me with guilt, as if on the verge of tears. I glanced at the fire-scarred remains of the house. "Porter, we're even now. From now on, I hope you stay away from me and my daughter." After saying that, I grabbed my suitcase and walked past him. Porter reached out as if to stop me, but in the end, his hand froze helplessly. He crouched down, crying in despair. I moved with Stella to a place closer to my workplace. Before long, the house was sold through an agent. The buyer was reasonable, aware that the house had been fire-damaged, and didn't haggle over the price. I sold the house for $1.5 million. Then we quickly settled on a nice neighborhood. Thanks to my work abilities, I smoothly returned to my original company. Sitting again in my director's office chair, I felt somewhat dazed. But more than that, I felt a sense of peace in my heart. I worked hard during the day, and at night I took care of Stella. Wendy felt sorry for me, saying I worked like an Iron Man every single day. But Wendy didn't know. Although life was tiring now, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. My goals were clear. I knew that everything I was doing was for a better future for Stella and me. I originally thought these days would continue quietly like this, but I never expected that a few months later, Mila would come to my company, crying and heavily pregnant. "Raina, I really have no choice, you know, Porter loves me, but because of you, even though my belly is so big with the baby, he still refuses to marry me. I really don't know what to do," Mila, heavily pregnant, said, causing the people around to look at me strangely. I frowned, not sparing Mila any sympathy. "Mila, what are you saying? You were the other woman, causing me to divorce him right after I gave birth to my daughter. Now my daughter and I have nothing to do with him. Whether he marries you or not is none of my business." Mila knelt beside me, her tears streaming down like rain, "But I'm pregnant." I almost laughed. "Mila, do you even know what you're saying? The child you're carrying is Porter's, not mine. What do you want from me? Do you expect me to marry you or something?" The people around, hearing my words, guessed the truth of the matter and looked at Mila with contempt. Oh my God, I never thought being the other woman could be so brazen these days. Director Raina just gave birth to a daughter, and her marriage fell apart because of him. And he still has the nerve to come looking for Director Raina. Mila couldn't bear the disdain and fled in panic. But I still heard that Porter eventually married Mila. I heard it was because Mila threatened to cry and make a scene at the company if they didn't get married. His mother was so desperate for a grandson that she threatened to die, forcing her son to marry Mila. The night before Porter and Mila's wedding, he came to my door drunk, knocking loudly. I ignored him. A hypocritical scumbag like Porter, I didn't want anything to do with him anymore. Porter pounded on my door, the sound echoing sharply. "Open the door. Raina, please open the door, I'm tired, I want to go home, I want to see Stella too. Open up, Raina, I really want to go home." From his voice, I could hear Porter's regret and pain clearly. I leaned against the door, my gaze complicated. Porter didn't know that our home had long since been destroyed by his own hands. I called the police to have him removed. The next day, the wedding began, and according to our mutual friends, Porter didn't seem happy at all. He acted as if he were attending a funeral rather than a wedding that wasn't even his own. But I didn't pay much attention to that. Children change so quickly. My Stella, who was so skinny at first, had now become chubby and utterly adorable. During this time, some people tried to set me up with potential partners. They said that since I had been divorced once and had a daughter, it would be harder to marry again if I waited too long. But I felt that things should happen naturally. Even if fate hadn't arrived yet, Stella and I could still live happily. In the blink of an eye, Stella was almost 1 year old, but Porter's life was far from smooth. Mila gave birth to a son named David. Porter's mother doted on the child as if he were made of glass, afraid he might break. Probably because she had risen as the other woman, Mila was extremely distrustful of Porter. Whenever any girl at the company spoke a few words to Porter, Mila would storm over and yell at her. She even ruined a very important project for Porter's company, and all of this was simply because the project leader was a woman who had shared a cup of tea with Porter in the office. Porter's reputation plummeted. Lately, he kept texting me from different numbers. He said he missed me. Missed Stella. He said Mila was suffocating him. He also said that during the divorce, he realized how important I was to him. To him, Mila was just a youthful obsession and unwillingness to let go. But by then, I had already been hurt too deeply by him, it was all too late. He truly regretted it. Every day after our divorce, he missed me and our daughter terribly. I completely ignored him, even feeling a bit disgusted. I transferred my daughter's household registration to the house where I currently live. I want every day of her life from now on to be filled with warmth. Mila thought that having a son for his family would allow her to continue flaunting her power, but what she didn't expect was that when the doctor announced the blood type during a hospital checkup, Porter suspected that David might not be his biological son. Suspicious, Porter had someone investigate Mila's past abroad. Only then did he discover that Mila had actually already conceived another man's child while overseas. However, that man was married and didn't want her, which is why she came back to find Porter. Porter's mother, upon learning the truth, immediately fainted from shock. Seeing the situation exposed, Mila abandoned even her own son and fled with the funds from Porter's company. Porter's company, already on the brink of collapse due to the troubles Mila caused, went bankrupt outright because of the lost funds. All the burdens and debts fell squarely on Porter's shoulders. Since he failed to repay the money on time, the court enforced compulsory measures against him. The next time I saw Porter was 5 years later. At that time I was holding Stella's hand. Stella was wearing the princess dress I had bought for her, happily telling me the stories her kindergarten teacher had shared. But I couldn't help but notice the man limping by the trash bin, scavenging for scraps. 5 years had passed, and Porter seemed much older, his clothes were tattered and worn. Stella was very kind. She waddled over with her short little legs and handed a box of milk to Porter. "Uncle gave this to you." The moment Porter instinctively took the milk, he saw me. He seemed to have guessed Stella's identity. I saw his eyes instantly redden, and his voice trembled as he spoke. "Ah, thank you, Stella." Stella bounced back to my side, while Porter hurriedly limped away in a panic, as if he didn't want me to see him. On the way, Stella asked me, "Mom, how does that uncle know my name?" I raised my hand and pinched Stella's cheek with a smile. "Maybe that uncle is very clever, so he guessed it." The sunset fell upon us as I held Stella's hand, walking towards the road home.